Hey guys, I'm Kristen Howerton. I blog at Rage Against the Minivan.
I'm Paul Martin. I blog at Paulosophia.
And Paul and I have a weekly political chat. We are old friends and political junkies and come from different sides of the aisle. I'm a Democrat.
I'm a Republican.
And we have been trying to model a civil discourse on politics over the past, 2 years now. So lots to discuss this week. A lot of things going on politically. I would say probably the big one is, and which is of interest to us, is the fact that the Southern Baptist Convention this week has been going back and forth as to whether or not they want to denounce the alt-right. Now, should we give a little primer on the alt-right?
Yeah, I think you should.
Well, if you're not familiar with the alt-right, alt-right refers to a far-right contingency. This is further right than the Tea Party. The alt-right tends to be very nationalistic, tends to be very white supremacist, although they will use tactics of plausible deniability. And what I mean by that is they won't be outright racist, but if you ever read one of their publications, say for example Breitbart, there is a large focus on crimes done by minorities, and kind of a minimization of anything perpetrated by white people. So the alt-right are responsible for just sort of inflaming a new sort of white supremacy in our country. They were very pro-Trump. And then my personal experience
tell
with the alt-right, if you haven't heard me tell this story before, I'll do it very quickly, but I was targeted by the alt-right about 1.5 years ago for a video I posted on YouTube which showed me giving my 2 daughters black American Girl dolls. That enraged them, and they, within their internet forums, decided to do a targeted attack, and they came after me on Twitter and on 4chan and just harassed me for a couple weeks. They were modifying photos of my children, calling my boys horrible names, saying all manner of disgusting and racist stuff. So these people are gross. And I want to say this up front. If you want to come in and defend alt-right and say they're not all like that, then you need to have a come to Jesus, because if most of them are like that, it's just, it's not a place that you should be. I mean, if you are conservative, all power to you, but the alt-right is a very nasty side of conservatism. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's white supremacy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's just what it is. It
may be very thinly masked.
Yeah, it's not politically correct to say liberal anymore. Progressive is better, I think. And in the same way, it's not politically correct to say I'm a KKK member anymore, but to be part of the alt-right / nationalistic. It's disgusting. And I think we did that thing in San Diego a few months back, and it was interesting to me how few people even knew, or at least some people didn't know what it was, what the alt-right was. But it's very clearly... it's a racist group. It is
a racist group, and in varying shades, no pun intended, of subtle, all the way to directly using the N-word. But that is a thread, a very probably one of the biggest threads if you were going to define the alt-right. But anyway, nonetheless, so most people would agree the alt-right is rather racist in their practices, and so the Southern Baptist Convention attempted to write a statement denouncing the alt-right, and they received pushback. Do you have that statement? Can you read us a little bit from that?
My computer is just acting so weird.
Is it?
But basically, the Southern Baptist is the largest Protestant denomination in the country.
Yeah.
They put together this resolution that basically said however many hundreds of thousands, millions of us, denounce this group. Right. They are wicked and evil, and they are...
Now, historically, Southern Baptist Convention is extremely conservative politically. They've been vocal politically, and they've always kind of fallen down those party lines. But I think they were trying to say, this does not represent us.
Yeah.
And they got pushback.
Yeah, well, they didn't approve the resolution. And the reason why they didn't approve the resolution, I wanted to quote it, but the computer's acting funny, is because apparently some of the language in the resolution was said to be a little bit too divisive or something. Inflammatory, exactly. But what's strange about that...
And the language basically said that it was racist, and that it was biased.
Xenophobic.
Yeah. I mean, it was an accurate description. And yet we find ourselves with them, at the end of the day, not being able to pass. Which, again, if you're not a Christian, I hope that you'll still watch and sort of maybe listen to this perspective of two Christians who don't represent this kind of a worldview. But as a Christian, it's super frustrating to see this sort of reluctance on the part of Christians to really take a stand, because there is such an entrenchment between the conservatives and the religious right, and alt-right is still right, politically. And it's interesting, just to share a little random personal anecdote. I went to my kids' open house last night at school, and they had persuasive arguments posted that children had written up on the board. And one of the children had written a persuasive argument against illegal immigration. And I'm reading this, and it's kind of brutal, and it is very inflammatory, and it's kind of, why do we want illegals? Because they are responsible for most of the crime, and when they come over, they, are violent, and, kind of the stuff. And then the student had quoted Breitbart twice in the first page of this paper.
Are you kidding me?
No. That's hanging up at my kid's school, 6th grade. And so, I take note of what student it is, as one does, and look up the parents on Facebook, because I'm just like, who is this? Because I have to say, as the mother of a black child, when another student in the school is reading Breitbart, that I have some red flags go up. And it's like, wouldn't you know, I look up the parent, and, as you can see by the things they like on Facebook, very Christian. And it's so freaking predictable. Like I knew it, very conservative Christian. And it still baffles. I know we keep circling the drain on this issue. It is baffling to me that Christians will buy this kind of nationalistic, racist crap, that they continue to.
Yeah, and the more I talk about this, and some of you are watching that probably fall into this category, it's just really not on your radar. You just at the end of the day, you don't think it's that big of a deal. Racism, there are other issues. It doesn't keep you up at night.
Yeah.
And we have this guy that shoots up the baseball game yesterday, and now people are throwing around the term mentally ill. But if a Muslim shoots someone, they're a terrorist. They never could be mentally ill. Yeah. They're a terrorist. You have the guy in Oregon a couple weeks ago who is a full-blooded white supremacist who slashed the necks of 3 people because these guys decided to defend these innocent Muslim teenagers that were minding their own business. And it just seems like, and this is like, I'm maybe challenging maybe people that are watching, it just doesn't seem to be the case that you believe these are problems.
Yeah.
You think maybe we're alarmists, leftists, talking about issues that aren't important, but these are dominant issues, and they're based in the sickest part of what our nation, our nation almost split over the issue of racism, discrimination, and bigotry, and yet we still see it, and you have so many millions of people, many of them Christians, including the Southern Baptist Convention, that are not willing to say, look, this stuff is wrong. And it is baffling.
It is so baffling. I don't get it. And, I do agree. I think it's just not on people's radar. They think it's not that big of a deal. They think it's not a huge threat. I would highly encourage any of you to watch the show The Handmaid's Tale, because I think it is such a fascinating allegory, and the story is an example of what can happen when extremism grows and takes over. And you know, the alt-right is growing, guys. It is growing. It is becoming emboldened. And I mean, I say this as, you know, as someone who's on the internet, and I'm public, and I've dealt with racism, you know, the entire time I've been public for the last 12 years, but it is at a fever pitch right now in terms of just the comments and the people that are coming out of the woodwork. They are being emboldened by the alt-right and by the fact that an alt-right approved person was put into the White House and he has never denounced them, and then he hired the editor of Breitbart to be his senior staffer. So guys, this is happening. Like, you know, you watch Handmaid's Tale, you go, how does this happen? This wouldn't happen. This is how it happens. The alt-right is growing. Our president hasn't denounced them. He's hired someone from their staff to come on his staff.
Steve Bannon.
And now we have the former editor of Breitbart. And now we have, which is the darling of the alt-right world, and now we have the largest denomination of Christians refusing to say we don't like them. What is happening?
Today I had a conversation with somebody on social media, actually a friend of mine, and his comment was, I just don't see why people are so hateful about Donald Trump. I don't really see the hate coming from him. And I want to respect that viewpoint, but I think what a lot of people miss are the subtleties.
Yeah.
For example, and we talked about this last time, we've had terrorist attacks in Brussels, Paris, San Bernardino, Nice, Florida, Orlando, Florida, and never once did Trump attack the mayors of those respective cities.
Right.
There's an attack in London, and Donald Trump attacks the mayor, who is a Muslim.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, he went after this guy, who, you know, rejected and denounced the terrorist attack in the strongest terms. But those are the types of subtleties that I think a lot of people miss. There was last year a Canadian, you know, a Trump supporter went and murdered a bunch of Muslims in a mosque. And Trump is just not willing to denounce these things.
Right.
And people call on him to denounce them, but he won't. And so I think there's a lot of subtlety in Trump's bigotry.
I do too. That very plausible deniability is the key word.
What does that mean? What does plausible deniability mean?
It means that I can deny it later. You know, it means that I say something in such a way that I plant a seed, but later I could go, oh, that's not what I meant. I mean, when I posted on my Facebook wall 5 days in a row about crimes that black people committed in my town, that wasn't racist. I was just sharing the news. That's plausible deniability. It's being racist in such a way that no one can call you out on it, or that you can go, I didn't mean that. But you see the thread, and that is what is so scary, you know, about racism today is, you know, 60 years ago it looked like Jim Crow, and, you know, now it's just so underground.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, I have acquaintances like this, you know, and you see the thread of the vilification of people of color over and over and over again. But if you call them on it, it's like, all I was doing was like saying how sad I was that people were killed by Muslims, but you've only posted about Muslim shooters.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And xenophobia or any kind of
fear of others
or fear of Muslims is racism, because obviously Muslims are 99% people with dark skin. And that brings us to, I know that there was a census done, I think it was in 2000, if I'm right, that we talk about this sometimes, that white people like us, even though I'm half Hispanic, I'm white, are going to be the minority in this country in 2042. That fact, coupled with an African-American president, leads many people that spend in think tanks to believe that white people today are undone by the reality of the fact that whites will be the minority in this country. And Pat Buchanan, somebody who ran for president, and somebody who said that he was he came at the wrong time. Trump came at the right time, but Buchanan was ahead of his time. And Trump basically, Buchanan has said, and I quote, the U.S. needs to return to its ethnic core. And he said this on NPR. I mean, this wasn't like hearsay and text mail. I blogged about it.
Yeah.
But there is I think there's a strong sense here in this country amongst white people who may know it or not.
Yeah.
That they're afraid or frustrated.
Yeah.
That this is not going to be a white country for much longer.
I think they are too. Which, we live in a majority-minority county, and guys, it's fine. It's all fine, Expand your palate,
Totally.
eat some new foods, learn how to salsa dance, chill out. It's going to be okay.
We're getting some comments. Ginger, I'm so happy that you said that, because I was thinking of exactly that when I said ethnic core, because the big dirty little secret, of course, is the ethnic core of this country is dark.
It's Native American.
It's Native American.
Who we plundered and murdered.
White.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
White evangelical men did.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. So let's talk quickly about, there was a very tragic shooting at a practice for a baseball game amongst congressional members, which is really actually, I think one of the saddest parts of this having happened is this is one of the few bipartisan activities. It's right and left. It's our, elected officials playing a friendly game of baseball against one another. And it happens every year, and it's still going on. And in this sort of culture where there's so much animosity between the sides. And we've talked about this a lot. I mean, I have a friend whose grandfather was a president, and, she talks about how he would go to lunch every day with, people from the other side. And it's very different, but this is one of the kind of like remaining social.
Right.
So they were in a practice for that, and the majority whip, Steve Scalise, was shot, and he is in very serious condition, even at the moment, which is a huge tragedy. And obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with him and with everyone that was there, because it's so traumatic. But it does also beg the question, these are people, Steve particularly, Scalise, who received an A+ from the NRA, who has fought diligently to, make guns accessible to everyone, despite, any other mental health or issue, kind of thing. And I want to say, I mean, I believe in the Second Amendment right, but I believe in it in the same way that I believe that I should have to take a test before I get a driver's license, and if I decide to sell food out of my house, I'm going to have a government official come, I mean, there needs to be some level of accountability. So, it is a really tragic thing that happened, but it is just another example of the way that our gun culture is running amok.
And I was thinking about this yesterday, and Chris and I are talking about a podcast that we're going to be doing here soon. And to my Republican friends, I just want to say we need to be common sense Republicans. I'm for the Second Amendment. I grew up with guns. My dad still has an arsenal. I mean, his really?
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, his theory was one for every window, and our house was a 6,000 square foot house with like 50 windows, and we had one for every window. And I grew up shooting everything. I think it's great. But this dude was a domestic violence. He was accused of domestic violence, and I'm for having guns, but we just kind of need to get a little bit more serious about who gets the guns.
Not everybody gets a gun.
Not everyone gets a gun. And
some of you lose your privileges to get a gun. That is common sense.
It's just common sense.
In the same way that my driver's license can be taken from me.
Right. And unfortunately, like during the debates, I mean, Hilary Clinton is for the Second Amendment. And Trump would say during the debate, she wants to take all your guns away.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that.
And most of the people on the right are like, yeah, man, she wants to take our guns away. No, she didn't. She's just calling for common sense.
Yeah.
Which is, guns are dangerous. And it was interesting, too, Trump made a comment about the stabbing, oh gosh, I'm getting all the terrorist attacks mixed up. Yeah, the London attacks, and how it was something about how if they would have had guns, they could have prevented the attack. Like, in other words, the citizens could have stopped it. Well, how about maybe thinking that had they had access to AK-47s in England, there might have been 500 people killed. I don't understand it.
But it's a yes-and situation. I mean, taking guns out of the hands of the people that shouldn't have them doesn't mean that there are no longer armed guards. You know what I'm saying? I mean, thankfully, Steve Scalise he's a majority whip, and as such, he has armed protection all the time, and so those people were on hand. Those are people we think should have guns. So, there's a lot of red herrings thrown around in the gun conversation. Like, well, we need people to have the guns. Well, yes, some people should have the guns.
Yeah,
not the crazy people.
Mike brings up a question. Isn't that already the law? I don't think it is, Mike. I think in certain states.
You should look at the states.
Yeah, because last time you actually printed out which states have different regulations on accessibility, and I don't. Yeah. I mean, I think it is the law in certain states, but I just think it depends on the state. It
really depends on the state, and at the end of the day, the NRA is working hard to make sure that there are no restrictions, which is scary. And there's, again, a marriage between the NRA and the conservative.
There is. And it's a slippery slope, because I guess there are 1 billion guns in this country, something like that. And so one argument people want to make is even if you outlawed guns, bad guys would still get them. But I think what I want to say is let's just try to make it as difficult as possible. Whatever it is, common sense. Yeah. If you have a domestic violence report on your criminal record, you cannot buy a effing gun anywhere, ever. Yeah. There's just a red dot on the computer screen. Yeah. And so you're going to have to go underground if you want to try to shoot up our public servant.
And Mike makes a point. Yes, it is national law that if you've had a felony, you can no longer have a gun. But there's a large chasm between regular citizen and someone who's been convicted of a felony, and I would say in that same spirit. Probably someone who's been convicted of a domestic violence crime, misdemeanor, should not have a gun. Someone who can't pass an MMPI should not have a gun. Like, there should just be some basic, there should be some basic things that you go through.
Mike's saying his charges were dismissed. So, I mean, Mike, it seems like you've done more research than I have on this particular issue, so thank you for sharing that. It just still seems the amount... I mean, what if how many people are killed by guns every day? 200, 300, 400, 500 people every single day. It just seems like...
Here's the thing.
I lived in England for 2 years. There were not people getting killed by guns.
We can all share opinions, but at the end of the day, facts matter. And the facts are, in countries where there are stricter gun laws, there are less shootings. Those numbers are clear.
By far.
So, we can share opinions all day, but the numbers don't lie.
Let's flip over to all things Russiagate.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, what's the latest? Well, okay. First of all, I have to say, have you seen that Putin is doing an interview with Oliver Stone?
It's a series,
on
right?
Showtime. Like, what?
Or HBO or Showtime.
What topsy-turvy world are we living in that, like, our president is a former reality TV producer and star, and now Putin's doing an interview not with Anderson Cooper, but with Oliver Stone on Showtime. It's just so weird.
It's weird.
Like,
it's weird.
Why Oliver Stone? And I mean, I can't even imagine what's going to be discussed or what he's going to say, and I think it'll be a joke because he's not going to be truthful. Obviously, he's not going to come out and be like, "Yes, we did collude," and mess with your election. But it's so weird.
It's so weird. And I think, again, as a Republican, what's so strange to me, Republicans, hear me, is that we were always the party of, like, national defense. That's one of the three pillars why I remain a Republican, is I ultimately believe if we don't have a kick-ass military, someone is going to kick our ass. And history has shown that that's what happened to the Roman Empire. You can go back in history. So I'm for a big defense. I'm not a hawk, but I just don't think we need to skip. And Putin and a lot of really smart people in Russia have realized that conventional warfare is old school. So the new kind of warfare is propaganda, interfering with democracies. That's the new war 2.0. And how few, even today, I was, again, texting or messaging with a Republican friend, and all my Republican friends seem numb to the fact that 17 of our intelligence agencies say, as a matter of irrefutable fact, One of the chief adversaries. Putin worked for the KGB. Sorry.
Yeah.
But this was a complete attack on our country, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Pinko Commie, I don't care what you are.
Totally.
They totally interfered. And all of my Republican friends are like, like Hillary's emails. And
interference in an election is like flying in the face of Republican values. Democrats too, but especially Republicans.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
At all. And so anyway, yesterday the Washington Post came out and said that Trump is now under investigation.
Officially under investigation.
For obstruction of justice regarding Comey. Yeah, Comey. I mean, he tried to get Comey, and they think 2 other members of the Trump administration to hide this investigation to get rid of it. And so this thing just continues. And again, taking some cues from people I'm having conversations with. Trump's calling it a witch hunt this morning. Trump this morning was talking about
Hillary. He went
off
on Twitter this morning.
Yeah,
he had a little temper tantrum. Someone fell asleep on the watch. He went nuts on Twitter.
The bottom line issue with all of this is, again, to my Republican friends, this is not a Democratic witch hunt. James Comey is a lifetime Republican.
Lifetime Republican.
He switched.
Conservative Republican, who many believe lost Hillary the election. He's on your side.
He's on your side.
Guys.
He was the one to release that stupid thing about the emails 10 days before the election, which no one ever did. And in his last testimony, he talked about Loretta Lynch. That was a complete smack in the face of Republicans.
Yes.
And so, but I just don't understand how the problem, guys, is that the Trump administration, there's a cover-up. A friend today said they've been investigating it for a year and they haven't found anything. The reason they haven't found anything is because the Trump administration is completely stonewalling.
Yeah.
And Jeff Sessions said this week earlier.
Well, so he was questioned.
Yeah, Jeff Sessions was questioned.
See that Jeff Sessions was questioned in this whole fiasco. He was very defensive. He got very frustrated, and he maintains that he made a simple mistake when he said he hadn't spoken with remember how he lied and said he hadn't spoken with Russians, and he said, I thought you meant, did I talk to Russians about colluding with them? I mean, I talked to them, but I thought you were asking, so he's insisting that it was just a miscommunication, and that he has never, had any partnership with any collusion.
And the bottom line is we don't know.
We don't know.
That's why there's an investigation. Yeah. The House there are 3 investigations. Like, if you're not a junkie like we are, there are 3 investigations going on right now. There's one with the House. There's one with the Senate. And then there's this special counsel that is like massively powerful. And no one can really do anything about any of them.
Special counsel is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. But here's this literally is keeping me up at night. Okay, so I watched the whole Sessions testimony, and they asked Sessions during the testimony, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, and they said, basically, did you ever have a conversation about the Russian interference with President Trump during or after January 20th? And Jeff Sessions said no. Jeff Sessions is the head of the Department of Justice. That's the flipping court that determines wrong things that happen to our country.
Yeah.
And this seems to be something that even the media missed, although I heard something about it last night on one of the news channels. The Attorney General, who had been with Trump the entire time, was asked 3 or 4 times, did you ever have any conversations with President Trump or any of the administration about Russians hacking? And Jeff Sessions said no.
Yeah.
This is the biggest intrusion on our country since 9/11.
If they really didn't talk about it, it's because they actively decided not to talk about it. That's the only option here.
I don't know.
I mean, that's like you and I being like, well, yeah, we hung out 15 times in the last 6 months, but we didn't talk politics. Of course we did. Of course they talked about this. If they didn't, then the only possibility is that they agreed not to talk about it. for plausible deniability.
Yeah, and I just need to underscore, I am a Republican. I believe deeply in some of the tenets of the Republican platform. I remain. I'm not bailing out, but this is just wacky to see so many. Now, it's a lot like Watergate in the first year and a half of Watergate, the Republicans in Congress and the Senate and the House, were kind of we don't want to jump in.
Yeah.
But once things went on and on and on like they are now, Trump being investigated for obstruction of justice, especially when Nixon fired Archibald Cox, then it really turned. But this thing is not going away. And it's not going away because it's a witch hunt. Because if it was a witch hunt, as they're trying to spin it, many of the witches are Republicans. Like John McCain. Like, these are stalwart Republicans who are very upset about what's going on. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like we keep saying it till we're blue in the face, but racism should not be a political side issue, and obstruction of justice in our democratic process should not be a side issue. And if you're choosing the way that you value these things based on what your party is saying, come on, guys, this has to end. This whole partisan blindness, it's just got to end. It's crazy. It's crazy making.
Totally.
All right, so Hillary Clinton.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just Trump this morning. I mean, what was amazing, I have a computer in front of me right now, and it is just on the blink. But Trump gave in. So when Trump, I did not like Trump. I did everything in my power to persuade one soul to not vote for Trump before the second Tuesday of November. But once he was elected into office, and this is one of my own personal tenets, I want to support our president, Democrat, Republican. That's how I roll. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt until day one, and he just proved
for 12 hours.
Right, for 12 hours.
While you slept, you gave him the benefit of the doubt.
While I slept, because he proved that he wasn't going to be any different as a president than he was as a candidate. And he just, on and on, has done ridiculous, stupid things with his Twitter account.
Yeah.
And it just, accusing Obama of tapping. It goes on and on. But last night, Trump gave a really moving speech. And I was going to post about this somewhere.
In regards to the
shooting. And he, man, and I had the exact quote. I'm sorry I don't have it. But I mean, he spoke last night with conviction, passion, heart. People on CNN on both sides, the liberals on CNN were saying last night, and here's the quote, it finally came up. Trump said last night, "We may have our differences, but we do well in times like these to remember that everyone who serves in our nation's capital is here because above all, they love our country. We can all agree that we are blessed to be Americans, that our children deserve to grow up in a nation of safety and peace, and that we are at our strongest when we are all unified and we work together for the common good." Donald Trump said that last night.
He read that. I mean, those are beautiful words. I don't think he wrote those words.
He didn't write the words.
There's nothing in that that's consistent with anything he's ever actually written online.
So here's actually a moment where we're going to disagree.
Okay.
As the Democrat and the Republican. But nonetheless, he had a moment of leadership. Beautifully said.
Yes, it was nice.
But the next freaking hour, he starts tweeting about Hillary Clinton. And if my computer works, I will read some of those to you.
Paranoid.
But it's this is like compartmentalization, fragmentation.
Yeah.
Like psychological fragmentation.
Yeah.
You can't keep a consistent narrative of goodness. And he just went after Hillary Clinton for some reason.
Well, he was saying, why are they looking at my non-dealings with the Russians while they're not looking with her dealings with the Russians?
So he says 23 hours ago, just left the hospital. The member that was shot is in very tough shape, real fighter. Pray for him. And then 14 hours ago, he said they made up a phony collusion with Russian stories, found zero proof. So now they're going for obstruction of justice on the phony story. Nice. A couple hours later, our president. You're witnessing the greatest single witch hunt in American political history. led by some very conflicted people. And then he's...
Bad and conflicted people.
Bad, thank you.
Bad.
Bad people.
MAGA.
And then he says, why is it that Hillary Clinton's family, typographical error, it should be possessive. He makes it plural anyway. Why is it that Hillary Clinton's family and Dems' dealings with Russia are not looked at, but my non-dealings, another weird grammatical thing, are... Another text, crooked Hillary destroyed phones with hammer, bleached emails, and had husband meet with an attorney general. Like, he's like, his moment of glory was being presidential, being a leader, saying we want to unify. He had that last night. And then he just goes on this spastic barrage of tweets.
He can't stop himself.
I don't like that.
He's insane. I can't believe our president tweets stuff like this. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It's a circus. It is a circus. I mean, yeah, he's a toddler. He is a toddler. I mean, if he were my child, I would take Twitter away.
Take the phone away.
So I would just be like, you're not old enough. This is embarrassing. Oh, boy.
I just think of this, not to be philosophical, but it's hard for me not to time, this thing that Plato said, democracy is not a good government because every desire gets a vote. And Trump's whole campaign was based on, I'm going to help you. All you poor people, you're going to get jobs, and we're going to get rid of all these bad guys, and we're going to make this country amazing. And people are like, yeah, that man's going to do it.
Yeah.
No wall, no ban, no healthcare, no...
Thank goodness.
I mean, just all you poor people, sorry, or whatever, people that voted for Trump thinking that he was going to create nirvana for you, we're 6 months in and nothing's happened.
Yeah. And it's not going to happen. I mean, how do you think all of this is going to end, all of these different investigations happening, you know?
It's hard because they say that, like, with Clinton, it started with, like, the Rose law firm.
Yeah.
But he finally got impeached for lying in a grand jury testimony about Monica Lewinsky.
Right.
And we're seeing kind of the same thing play out here.
Yeah.
Where just the cover-up, you know, perjury is perjury. You lie under oath, you're gone. And so I think that's what's scary for the Trump administration right now, is that as they continue to investigate, he's going to eventually probably have to testify. And if they catch him in a lie, he's gone. I mean, it's perjury.
Yeah. And they'll catch him in a lie, right?
I mean, he lies all the time already.
He lies all the time. I don't know if that guy would know how to be under oath and not lie. I mean, he lied in his campaign speeches, in the debates. He lied.
Well, and just the amount of lawsuits he's had against him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not pretty. And I say this as a grieving Republican.
Yeah.
I would want nothing more than to have, I mean, to you Democratic friends that hate some of the tenets of the Republican Party, to have Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, John Kasich, God, even, like, I don't know if I could say Ted Cruz, but, like, just to have a sane...
He looks a lot better now.
Yeah, just to have some kind of sanity.
Yeah.
Like, you know, George Bush, I voted for him the first time. I didn't the second time because of Iraq, but there's a certain sense that he's a good man, and he just was not this belligerent narcissist, which is an overused word, but
crazy.
Clinton survived perjury. Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Over a blowjob.
Yeah.
And with Trump, it's over one of the greatest adversaries in the world trying to F up our democracy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A bit of a difference.
Slightly. Sorry. A lot of fancy words for me tonight.
All right. Anything else in the last week or two? Like, that's not enough. I mean, it's hard. I feel like I'm getting, like, updates on my phone on the daily. You can't even keep track of the craziness going on.
Yeah. It's a crazy time.
There was the Megyn Kelly thing.
Yeah, what about that? Or do you...
Well, so Megyn Kelly, you know, she was a correspondent on Fox News forever, and she and Trump had words, didn't they? They
did, yeah.
He didn't like her
firecracker.
at all. He was kind of sexist towards her. And then she has a news show, and she was planning to interview, what was the guy's name?
He's that reality TV guy that Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Who is a conspiracy theorist. He's one of the people that put forth the idea that Sandy Hook didn't actually happen. And so she was going to interview him, and
she did interview him. It's supposed to air on Sunday night because she has a new program on NBC, which they're trying to rival 60 Minutes. Good luck. So
she basically gave a platform to a nut.
A nut. I mean, imagine you're a parent. You're a parent. Your child was murdered by a psychopath at Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
And this guy gets up with his social media and his media world, peddling to people without brains, basically, that believe in conspiracy theories, saying that Sandy Hook was a hoax. He said
your child did not die.
Your child, yeah. And so Megan, I think, to get ratings, is going to interview him, and the people that are
totally for ratings.
Yeah, the people that are against, the people that are for stricter gun laws are saying, "What in the hell, Megyn Kelly? You're giving this guy a platform.
Right.
Like, you're making the whole conspiracy, 9/11 deniers, Holocaust deniers, Sandy Hook deniers. You're giving them legitimate." And there's a lot of pressure on her right now to pull the interview with him because it does give him credibility. I'm all for the freedom of the press. I don't know what I think about stuff like this.
Well, there's freedom of press, but there's also the freedom of every journalist to give a platform to who they want. So, I mean, she can do that, and then we can all not like her for it, and her ratings can plummet, and she can get, you know what I'm saying? That's part of the freedom of the press, is to say, like, as a journalist, you're doing a crappy job because you're giving weight to someone who doesn't deserve it,
Right.
That's how all that works. I mean, she's free to do it, and then she's free to be fired. Or people are free to call for her firing. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I've never been a huge fan of hers, even though, I had her back during the whole Trump thing. But she's kind of always been a little right and not always rational.
Yeah.
She's been Fox News.
Yeah, she's been Fox. I think the main thing that I think about more and more is just how important it is for all of us to get out of our silos. And we hear that a lot. I'm guilty of it. But to those of you that are really far on the left, I think it's important to tune into Fox News and just like put like a rag in your mouth as you're clenching your teeth.
Yeah.
But to try to have empathy on people that truly believe that this is reality, and for people on the right to turn on MSNBC or whichever other vehicles. I watch CNN. I've watched CNN for 35 years.
Yeah, me too.
And I listen to Jeffrey Lord, who's a Trump supporter, Jack Kingston. They're on every single night. Katie McEnany. These are all Trump supporters that CNN has on the panel every single night, who are defending Trump, who are defending these things. But I just think it's really important that we all immerse ourselves in mediums that are outside of our, the confirmation bias type thing. You've talked about a lot.
I agree. It's hard to do, though. It's hard to do.
BBC, way to go, Mike.
Yeah.
Like, if you want real news, the BBC.
I do agree, because that is it's lifted out of our partisan, kind of dogma. BBC and also Al Jazeera. I think, both of them are kind of outside perspective, international news sources that are interesting.
And people want to accuse PBS of being left. I mean, maybe I'm just a Democrat at the end of the day, but I watch PBS every single night, and there's a Republican, there's a Democrat.
Right.
They are debating every single night. Like,
Same
I don't
CNN.
really see what's liberal. Yeah, CNN too. I think PBS for us is just the most austere, measured, plain, straight ahead. CNN and Fox with theatrics and special alerts and news, like, Judy Woodruff every single night on PBS. Hello, welcome to the PBS NewsHour. Tonight we have it's just very vanilla.
Yeah.
And I just think I really want to encourage more of you to try to get out of if you're getting all your info from one channel.
Yeah.
We all need to mix that up a bit.
I agree. All right, I think that is it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Keep watching both of our pages, because we will be doing this every week, and we love your comments. Talk to you soon.
Bye.